Staffing and recruitment expenses. Cloud big data versus traditional staffing companies. This video helps the independent contract recruiters to understand the staffing and recruitment expenses difference between traditional staffing companies and cloud big data. Why cloud big data can only pay maximum 40% recurring income. Cloud big data takes care of all onshore and offshore business operating costs, overhead and expenses to successfully operate the e-staffing business in United States and India. Hence cloud big data can only pay maximum 40% of the vendor margin as recurring income to independent contract recruiters. As per the staffing industry experts' analysis, cloud big data's 40% recurring income is considered to be first time ever, highest commission in the staffing industry. Staffing and recruitment expenses. Cloud big data versus traditional staffing companies. For business development executives, salaries for traditional staffing companies 5%, for account managers, salaries for traditional staffing companies 5%, recruiters' salaries for traditional staffing companies 12%, job boards for traditional staffing companies 3%. Total staffing and recruitment expenses for cloud big data is 40%. Total staffing and recruitment expenses for traditional companies is 25%. Staffing and recruitment expenses of traditional companies. Expenses of business development executives, salaries for developing new clients 5%. Expenses of account managers, salaries for acquiring requirements and client support 5%. Expenses of recruiters, salaries for sourcing, screening and recruiting 12%. Expenses of job boards 3%. Total expenses 5% plus 5% plus 12% plus 3% equals 25%. Traditional companies' total staffing and recruitment expenses is just 25% only, while cloud big data's total staffing and recruitment expenses is 40%. Cloud big data takes care of onshore business expenses, payroll administration expenses, H-1B transfer expenses, legal immigration expenses, United States taxation expenses, external legal and audit expenses, expenses for liability insurances in United States, commercial general liability insurance, automobile liability insurance, umbrella liability insurance, workers' compensation and employers' liability insurance, professional liability insurance, third-party fidelity bond insurance, contract management expenses, account receivables expenses, account payables expenses, invoicing and billing expenses, office rents, equipment, supplies, maintenance expenses, technology infrastructure expenses, technical support expenses, advertising, promotion, training expenses. Cloud big data takes care of offshore business expenses, ICR application processing and support expenses, ICR payroll administration expenses, India taxation expenses, office rents, equipment, supplies, maintenance expenses. Important recommendations to independent contract recruiters. Since cloud big data pays 40% of the corp-to-corp vendor margin as recurring income, so every independent contract recruiters will get their own client requirements and source the consultants on their own. Since cloud big data paying 40% off corp-to-corp vendor margin as recurring income, every independent contract recruiters need to fulfill multiple roles and responsibilities, such as a recruiter, business development specialist and account manager to get your own client requirements, consultants, and achieve placements. Do not submit your candidates to Cloud Big Data VMS portal requirements because our independent contract recruiters who posted their own requirements will keep the vendor margin to Cloud Big Data on those requirements. If you again work on those, it is considered as double margin and is not acceptable. At Cloud Big Data, you can either work on your own client requirements, or you can market and place your own hot list consultants, or you can do both. Any approach is fine, but finally achieving a placement is important. If you do not have own client or vendor contacts, then you can focus on marketing and placing your own hot list consultants.